Hey everybody, welcome to So Awkward. It's me, Don, here with a quick review. I hope it'll be quick because I'm ready for bed. Of the new Star Wars #1 from Marvel Comics. The first Marvel Star Wars comic book in, I don't even know, 30 years? Not to be confused with the old Star Wars #1 right here, which came out in, I guess, 1977, 1978. They're both similar in that they take place right after the first Star Wars film, Star Wars. The difference is this one takes place after Episode 4, Star Wars A New Hope, whereas this one took place right after Star Wars, because that's what it was called back then. It was just Star Wars. It was one movie, didn't even have the subtitle or the chapter number that came later when they released Empire Strikes Back, Episode 5. So this series, which I've actually reviewed already, the first dozen or so, I'll put a link down below in the description, is super weird and takes place right after the movie with these weird characters like giant bunny rabbits, and there's a story based on the Seven Samurai. Because Roy Thomas and Howard Chaykin did it, they didn't know anything that was happening. I don't even think they saw the movie when they started writing this series. Whereas this one is a straight up sequel to Star Wars. It takes place right after the first movie and before the second movie, which I guess is right after the fourth movie and right before the fifth movie. Did I say this is going to be a quick video? They keep making these Star Wars adaptations that take place in between other Star Wars stories. Like if you ever read any of the expanded universe novels, they have timelines in the beginning. There's like pre-Battle of Yavin and anti-Battle of Yavin, and there's all these codes you need to know to figure out where in the timeline. Of course, none of that matters anymore because the expanded universe, for all intents and purposes, no longer exists, and we're starting fresh. Because now Marvel is publishing Star Wars because Star Wars is owned by Disney, who also owns Star Wars. So for the past 20 or 30 years or however long it's been, the Star Wars comics were produced by Dark Horse Comics, and they've been really good. They've been really interesting and a lot of fun. Clean slate. That was my long introduction to say this is a pretty good comic book. It's a fun comic book on its own right, and it's also a really fun Star Wars adventure. I liked it. I even really liked the intro. You turn the page and you've got the long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, like in the movies, and then you turn the page and you have the Star Wars thing like in the movies, and then like in the movies you've got the opening crawl and kind of a cinematic space ship floating by, and then we go to the planet, and it feels like Star Wars. Like you can almost hear the music in your head, like when you turn the first page and it's Star Wars, because you know in the movies it says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and the Star Wars is right up in your face and the music crescendos. So right from the start it feels like you're into another Star Wars adventure, more so than this weird comic. It was written by a guy named Jason Aaron, who I've never heard of, and drawn by John Cassaday, who everybody's heard of. He's a highly respected, world famous comic book artist. And it's great. The art is amazing. If you've ever seen John Cassaday's work, then you already know his talents and his craft are exceptional. And he's really good at the likenesses. This has the best and most accurate likenesses of any Star Wars comic I think I've ever read. And not to the point where it looks like still pictures from the movies, you know what I mean? Like sometimes they get the likenesses perfect, but it feels stiff. Whereas this just looks like Harrison Ford. But more than that, it looks like Han Solo. That's what I should say. Like, I don't know if you can see this thing. really good. Mark Hamill. Not much happens in the story, I will say that. It takes place somewhere after the first film, as I said, and before the second film, because all of these Star Wars comics and novels take place in that time frame. Like, this comic takes place 15 minutes in the middle of Return of the Jedi, before they go to Endor, but after they rescue Han on Tatooine. One of the problems with these kinds of stories, film adaptations in general, Star Wars stories in specific, because they take place in between movies usually, is you know what's going to happen. You know that nothing major is going to happen in between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. So I do kind of wish that they had just continued after Return of the Jedi and used this new series as a bridge between the old films and the new films that are coming out this year, next year. I don't even remember. Also, I wish it was cheaper. It was $4.99, and it's pretty thick. I mean, it's a big book, but $5 for a comic book. Maybe that's what comic books cost now. Let's see. This one was 35 cents. The times they are a-changin'. There's also ads in the back for upcoming Star Wars titles. I guess this is a really fun time to be a Star Wars fan. And that hasn't been true for probably the past 10 years. Since before the prequels, probably. There's a Darth Vader series coming out in February by Kieran Gillen, who I've never heard of, and art by Salvador Larroca, who I have heard of, and it looks phenomenal. I'll definitely pick this one up. Look at this. A Princess Leia series, which could be really fun, on sale in March by Mark Waid and Terry Dodson. That's a pretty good creative team right there, and it looks really nice. Check it out. I give this a thumbs up if you're a Star Wars fan, or if you're just a comic fan and like nice art and fun stories. There's some snappy dialogue. There's some good action. There's lightsabers. There are spaceships. There are Wookiees, droids. Darth Vader kicks some ass. And it's just, I think it's going to be a really fun series, and I'm excited to see some old school Star Wars action again. Check it out. Bye. May the Force be with you.